"It's been a while, boy. He wouldn't have been in our backyard." Well, now, I don't think you hear anything, and I don't think we're going to hear anything either, do you? For years, viewers of the Dukes of Hazzard simply couldn't get enough of Daisy Duke, her sass, her charm, and, of course, those legendary denim shorts, portrayed by the gorgeous Catherine Bach. Daisy was more than just a pretty face on TV. The show was popular for its light-hearted, family-friendly atmosphere. It had action, comedy, and emotion. But come on, Daisy's fashion sense certainly broke rules for the era. Her look generated headlines, sparked fashion trends, and even raised a few eyebrows among network executives. While fans in general viewed her as the free-spirited Southern belle, behind the scenes, there was always pressure to maintain her image. Every outfit, every angle, every move was carefully watched. Still, there was one moment they couldn't plan for, a wardrobe mishap that no one saw coming. The producers tried hard to hide it, and most fans never even knew it happened. All about the Dukes of Hazzard. The Dukes of Hazzard was a popular American action comedy television series on CBS from January 26, 1979 to February 8, 1985. It had a run of 7 seasons and 147 episodes altogether. At the height of its popularity, it was second only to Dallas as the most viewed program on television after its Friday nighttime slot premiere, which aired directly after Dallas. The series chronicled the thrilling escapades of 2 young cousins, Bo and Luke Duke, who resided in the fictional Hazzard County, Georgia. The 2 boys were on probation after being caught moonshining, illegally making homemade alcohol. As a result, they weren't permitted to carry firearms, so they improvised, fending off crime and outwitting their adversaries with bows and arrows, brains, and loads of charm. Bo and Luke grew up on a small farm with their intelligent and compassionate Uncle Jesse and their confident, gorgeous cousin Daisy. Daisy quickly became a favorite among fans, not only for her appearance, but also because she was intelligent, courageous, and stood by her family. The primary objective of the family was to avoid trouble, but that was almost impossible with a crooked county commissioner by the name of Boss Hogg and his incompetent sidekick, Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, constantly attempting to frame or trap them. One of the most recognizable elements of the show was the Duke boys' vehicle, a bright orange 1969 Dodge Charger named the General Lee. The vehicle sported a Confederate flag painted on the roof and a horn that played the melody of Dixie. The General Lee could fly over rivers and spin in mid-air during chases. It became an icon of the show and is still recognizable today. The show was developed from a 1975 film titled Moon Runners, which was similarly themed, focusing on a family that ran moonshine in the South. That same movie was written and directed by the originator of the Dukes of Hazzard, G.Y. Waldron. The stories and characters were quite similar to many of them. Interestingly, a few of the actors had already worked in well-known films before being part of the show. Ben Jones, Sonny Schroyer, and John Schneider were all in the 1977 film Smokey and the Bandit, and James Best played in the 1978 film Hooper. Although the show was over, its legacy lived on in 4 sequels: Reunion, 1997, Hazzard in Hollywood, 2000, a 2005 remake as a movie, and The Beginning, 2007, plot. The Dukes of Hazzard is all about the wild adventures of 2 fun-loving cousins, Bo and Luke Duke. They live on a family farm in the fictional Hazzard County, Georgia, with their smart and sassy cousin Daisy and their wise old uncle Jesse. The boys are always getting into some kind of trouble, but not the bad kind. Most of the time, they're outsmarting the town's crooked leaders while racing around in their famous orange Dodge Charger, known as the General Lee. Bo and Luke are on probation because they used to run moonshine, which is illegal homemade liquor. Their Uncle Jesse made a deal with the government. He promised to stop making moonshine in exchange for their freedom. As part of their probation, The boys can't carry guns or leave the county without permission, so instead they use bows and arrows, sometimes with exploding tips, and sneak their way out of sticky situations. Their main troublemaker is Boss Hogg, the greedy county commissioner who runs everything in Hazzard. Boss Hogg is always scheming, whether it's trying to get rich fast or take over the Duke family's land. He usually ropes in Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, a goofy lawman who follows Hogg's every order. Together, they try to set traps for Bo and Luke, or blame them for things they didn't do. But somehow, the Duke boys always find a way to foil their plans, sometimes by chance or being too clever. Interestingly, even though Boss Hogg always goes after the Dukes, they often end up saving him when he gets into serious trouble. There are several episodes where Bo and Luke help Hogg or Sheriff Roscoe when someone from the outside threatens them. So while they're usually enemies, sometimes they team up for the greater good. Other key characters include Coder Davenport, the local mechanic and close friend of the Dukes, who helps keep the General Lee running. There's also Enos Strait, a kind-hearted deputy who has a major crush on Daisy and doesn't like being part of Hogg's crooked plans. When Enos got his spin-off show for a while, he was replaced by Cletus Hogg, Boss's cousin who wasn't quite as innocent. In the end, the Dukes of Hazzard was all about family, fast cars, and standing up to injustice, even if it meant bending a few rules along the way. Now, let's discuss some main characters of this show. Lucas K. Luke Duke. Luke Duke, played by Tom Wopat, is the older and more serious of the Duke cousins on the Dukes of Hazzard. With his dark hair and laid-back demeanor, Luke is typically the brains behind the boys' get-out-of-jail plans whenever they get themselves into trouble, which, let's be honest, is fairly frequently. He's known for wearing a blue checkered shirt, or sometimes just a plain blue one, and a denim jacket, especially in the first season. Unlike his wild and impulsive cousin Bo, Luke is more level-headed and thoughtful. Before life in Hazzard County, Luke served in the United States Marine Corps and was even a boxer, so he's tough and smart, someone you'd want on your side in a tight spot. Luke isn't without his faults, though. Actually, in one of the early episodes titled Swamp Mali, he's a little hypocritical, demonstrating that even he is fallible. But still, the fans adored him, and one thing that truly stood out was the now famous hood slide of the General Lee. That stunt began as a fluke Wopat attempted to jump over the hood during shooting, but his foot got stuck on the car and he ended up sliding across instead. He also injured his arm on the antenna of the car, so all antennas were removed from the General Lee for future episodes. Ironically, that small error became a signature maneuver for the show. It is only once in the whole series that Luke is said to be older than Bo. In the Season 7 flashback episode, Happy Birthday, General Lee, we find that Luke had already enlisted in the Marines when Bo was still graduating from high school. Both cousins have the CB radio nickname Lost Sheep, but in an early episode entitled Money to Burn, Luke refers to himself as Sit and Duck, another one of those weird little tidbits fans enjoy recalling. Beauregard Bo Duke. Bo Duke, played by John Schneider, is the blonde-haired younger Duke cousin in the Dukes of Hazzard. Whereas his cousin Luke is the level-headed thinker, Bo is the hot-headed do-it-and-worry-about-it later sort. He's adventurous, somewhat reckless, and always ready to take on something new, even if it lands them in trouble. In one of the early episodes entitled High Octane, we learn that Bo's real first name is Beauregard, but everyone just knows him and loves him as Bo. He has a weakness for nice-looking girls, and sometimes such distraction gets the Duke boys into trouble. Bo typically wears a cream yellow top, and during the earlier seasons, you can spot him sporting a blue t-shirt underneath. But that look eventually phased out around Season 3. Before the show's events, Bo was a stock car racer, and that makes sense, given that he's often the driver of the General Lee, the Duke's iconic orange Dodge Charger. Although Luke occasionally gets behind the wheel, Bo's decidedly the one doing most of the crazy stunts. Indeed, he was the first to jump the General Lee, and is also famous for his loud and proud rebel yell, "Yo-ha!" whenever the car is flying through the air. Bo also popularized the roof slide, sliding over the roof on top of the car rather than merely the hood. You can see that in Season 4 episodes such as Dear Diary and Share and Share alike. It's one of those cool, action-rich details that made the show so much fun to watch. Like Luke, Bo has the CB radio nickname Lost Sheep. Although the General Lee is jointly owned by the cousins, some early shows suggest it may have actually been Bo's car to start with. Either way, Bo and Luke form one unforgettable pair, and Bo's reckless driving and carefree charisma are a big reason the show became such an icon. Daisy Duke. Daisy Duke, played by Catherine Bach, is Bo, Luke, Coy, and Vance's cousin in the Dukes of Hazzard. She's beautiful, has a big heart, and is kind. Daisy is loyal and always stands by her family, but she's sometimes too trusting, which has gotten the Duke family into hot water more times than she can count. Daisy's full of aspirations. Sometimes she dreams of being a singer or songwriter, and sometimes she dreams of becoming a reporter. But whatever her current aspiration is, she's always in the thick of things with her cousins, speeding through Hazzard County. At the beginning of the series, Daisy drives a yellow and black 1974 Plymouth Road Runner, which is later replaced by a 1971 Plymouth Satellite. But from the midpoint of Season 2 onwards, she's driving most often in her classic white 1980 Jeep CJ7, which she's nicknamed Dixie. The Jeep even has a golden eagle on the hood, and the words Dixie painted on the sides. Daisy also works as a waitress at the Boar's Nest, the town's bar, which is owned by the crafty Boss Hogg. She works there as part of a barter. Boss Hogg makes a deal to offer Uncle Jesse and the boys a more favorable loan rate so that they can afford to enter a race. The deal is to be open-ended, yet Boss Hogg dismisses her several times during the series. Nevertheless, something is always brought about that compels him to hire her once again. Even though Hogg is constantly getting into trouble with the Dukes, Daisy remains on good terms with his wife, Lulu. She also has a knack for using her charm to get her family out of difficult situations, whether it's sweet-talking a sheriff or distracting the villains. Daisy frequently uses her work at the Boar's Nest to gather useful information which she shares with her cousins to thwart Hogg's plans. And naturally, Daisy's name has become synonymous with style. Her trademark super short blue shorts became so iconic they were named after her, Daisy Dukes. At CB Radio, her call name is Bo Peep, but sometimes she also uses the name Country Cousin. With her bravado, her charm, and her brains, Daisy's a whole lot more than a pretty face. She's a vital member of the Dukes family crew. Jesse Dukes. This Uncle Jesse, played by Denver Pyle, is the soul and heart of the Dukes family in the Dukes of Hazzard. Everybody in Hazzard, except Boss Hogg, refers to him as Uncle Jesse. He's the wise, gentle father figure who takes care of Bo, Luke, Daisy, Coy, and Vance at the Duke farm. Although he has no children of his own, Jesse becomes a father figure to his nieces and nephews when their parents inexplicably disappear. The show never addresses it, but the creator later stated their parents were killed in a car accident. Jesse is full of old-fashioned wisdom and is always willing to advise the younger Dukes with some sage advice. He's also somewhat of a legend in Hazzard County. Way back when, he was a moonshine runner, just like Boss Hogg. The two were enemies, yet despite all the hell between them, they've had an odd sort of friendship over the years. Jesse always addresses him as J.D., and they occasionally assist each other when things get desperate. Uncle Jesse is kind-hearted and has a clear concept of right and wrong. He is never afraid to confront Hogg and always instructs the boys about what is right. He owns a white 1973 Ford F-100 pickup truck and has his old moonshine vehicle stored in the barn. His old car had been named Sweet Tilly when it initially showed up, but subsequent episodes named it Black Tilly. Jesse also refers to his deceased wife occasionally, indicating he once had his own love life. His name on the CB radio is Shepherd, and that's appropriate. He's always taking care of his lost sheep, such as Bo and Luke, and ensuring that they are always in the right direction. Uncle Jesse is not only the head of his family, but he's the conscience of the entire program. Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane. Sheriff Roscoe P. Coltrane, played by James Best, is the bumbling and crooked sheriff of Hazzard County. He works alongside his partner in crime and brother-in-law, Boss Hogg, whom he frequently refers to by silly nicknames such as Little Fat Buddy or her Chrome Dome. Although Roscoe behaves foolishly most of the time, he was not always like that. In the initial episodes, it is said that he used to be an honest policeman for nearly 20 years. But after the county removed his pension, Roscoe joined forces with Boss Hogg to earn some money to retire. Early on, Roscoe was a rougher character, actually shooting a criminal during the early seasons. But as the series became more successful with children, he became a goofy, blundering sort of character. By the time Season 1 ended, his origin was all but forgotten, and he was simply the part-time sheriff of Hazzard, constantly landing himself in preposterous trouble. Roscoe is also Lulu Hogg's younger brother. He's constantly after Bo and Luke Duke, but the Duke brothers always manage to outwit him and have him crash his patrol car. Amazingly, Roscoe always ends up unharmed. He lays out clandestine speed traps and plays a multitude of tricks, but they never seem to pan out for him. Even though he adores yelling hot pursuit and pursuing the Dukes, he doesn't wish to harm anybody. His complete name is Roscoe Purvis Coltrane, but the P in his name was not even included until Season 2. In one humorous episode, we even catch him getting tricked into a sham wedding. Roscoe also has a gentle side, particularly when it comes to his favorite basset hound Flash, who appears in Season 3. His CB radio name is Red Dog. When James Best, the actor, temporarily left the show, a couple of other actors served as temporary sheriffs, but viewers were thrilled when Roscoe returned. Boss Jefferson Davis, J.D. Hogg. Boss Jefferson Davis, J.D. Hogg, portrayed by Sorrel Book, is the wealthiest man in Hazzard County, and quite possibly the greediest as well. Dressed always in a white suit, Boss Hogg owns or has control of most of the land, businesses, and buildings in town, either outright or because someone owes him money. He's the commissioner of the county, but that's not enough. He's also the police commissioner, land commissioner, president of the bank, fire chief, and even appears to be a judge from time to time. He's boisterous, dictatorial, and money and power crazy. Boss Hogg spends his days concocting shady deals and instructing Sheriff Roscoe to get them Duke boys. He's also Bo and Luke Duke's probation officer, so whenever the boys want to get out of town, they have to request permission from him first. At home, Boss Hogg is married to Lulu Coltrane Hogg, Roscoe's stubborn sister. Although Hogg occasionally laments being married to her, in his heart, he obviously adores her and generally finds himself doing as she tells him. He also jokes with Roscoe by pointing out that he is now part of the family. Boss Hogg travels in a flashy white 1970 Cadillac convertible with gigantic bullhorns on the front. In previous seasons, he has frequently had a chauffeur taking him places. As a youth, he traveled in a car known as the Gray Ghost, delivering moonshine. Nowadays, however, his day begins over a cup of coffee and raw liver. Raw liver. The actor ate it on location. Although Boss Hogg is constantly plotting against the Dukes and attempting to become richer, he's not menacing. He most often botches things and ends up appearing ridiculous. That's another aspect of why he's enjoyable to watch. He's more of an innocent villain than a genuine threat. Cooter Davenport. Cooter Davenport, played by Ben Jones, is the Hazzard County go-to mechanic and one of the Duke boys' best buddies. Everyone refers to him as Crazy Cooter, a name derived from a species of turtle native to the southeastern United States, although Cooter is a whole lot more hyper than a turtle. In the early seasons, he's a bit of a wild man who doesn't always follow the rules. But as the series progresses, particularly towards the end of Season 1, Cooter becomes a more laid-back and amiable character. Cooter operates Cooter's Garage, located directly across from the sheriff's office in Hazzard County Square. Although he's not technically a Duke, he's essentially an honorary member of the family. He agrees with them in values, defending what is right and resisting the corrupt Boss Hogg and Sheriff Roscoe. Whether it's assisting the Dukes repair their automobile, evading the law, or ruining one of Boss Hogg's sleazy schemes, Cooter has their backs. There was a brief period during the second season when Cooter was missing from the show. That was due to a dispute between Ben Jones and whether Cooter should have a beard or be clean-shaven. During that time, the show had a few of Cooter's cousins filling in for him for a time. Though the cousins were never spoken of again, Jones did eventually come back, and Cooter was clean-shaven, starting from the third season. Cooter operates all sorts of trucks, Fords, Chevys, and GMCs, and he's equally as adept at extricating himself from a jam as he is under the hood of a motor vehicle. Over the CB radio, his call sign is Crazy Cooter, and he always begins his transmissions with his signature phrase, "Breaker 1, Breaker 1. I may be crazy, but I ain't stupid. Crazy Cooter on my way. Come on." Deputy Enos Strait. Deputy Enos Strait, Sonny Schroyer, is one of the most endearing characters on the Dukes of Hazzard. Despite working for Sheriff Roscoe and Boss Hogg, Enos is a kind-hearted individual and a good friend of the Duke family. He frequently finds himself chasing Bo and Luke, or attempting to arrest them, but typically only because he's been instructed to do so, not because he desires to. In the first few episodes, Enos proves to be a fairly good driver, and even Bo and Luke look up to him for that. But later in the series, he began to become just as clumsy and goofy as Roscoe when driving. One of Enos's favorite catchphrases is "possum on a gum bush," something he exclaims when he's shocked or thrilled, whereas Roscoe would formerly refer to Enos as a jackass in the early days. The series later softened the term for young audiences. Thereafter, Roscoe began to refer to him as Dipstick instead, a moniker that held fast. Boss Hogg still managed to inject the occasional put-down, particularly when things didn't go according to his plan. Enos has a huge crush on Daisy Duke, and it's clear to everyone. Daisy has a crush on Enos as well, but as a close friend. Nevertheless, she knows how to manipulate Enos's feelings to get the Duke boys out of trouble when they need it, and he's generally willing to cooperate. In one of the final episodes, Enos and Daisy's wedding, the two even go so far as to plan their wedding, but at the last minute, Enos changes his mind. He gets hives from all the nerves and excitement. Later, in the first of the Dukes of Hazzard reunion movies, Enos and Daisy reconnect and plan a second wedding, but this time it's Daisy who cancels after running into her former husband unexpectedly. Despite all the mayhem, Enos remains the same sweet, devoted, and silly deputy fans grew to adore. Deputy Cletus Hogg. Deputy Cletus Hogg, played by Rick Hurst, is Boss Hogg's second cousin, twice removed, and a regular in the Dukes of Hazzard. Cletus is friendly, a sort of clueless, and always seems to get swept up in the harebrained schemes of Boss Hogg and Sheriff Roscoe. Like Enos, Cletus is constantly instructed to pursue the Duke boys on fabricated charges, even though he knows better deep down. Cletus generally rides along with the mischief Roscoe and Boss cause, but he occasionally indicates that he doesn't quite approve of the way the Dukes are treated. Still, he's more likely to go along than Enos ever was. He has a soft spot for Daisy Duke as well. He even considers that she might want to marry him, although that's certainly more in his head than actual life. Cletus has a reputation for being one of those iconic Hazzard County car chases that end up with a splash. Like Enos and Roscoe, Cletus will frequently drive his patrol car into a pond head first. It's all in the fun chaos that dominates the show. He initially appeared in the first season, operating a bank truck as part of one of Boss Hogg's devious schemes to make money. He later appears in Season 2 as a stand-in deputy when Enos is away. By Season 3, in the episode Enos Straight to the Top, Cletus is the permanent deputy after quitting work at the junkyard. When Enos comes back in Season 5, both of them remain on the job as deputies and even get to share a patrol car sometimes. The Hazzard County police officers usually ride around in Dodge Monacos or Plymouth Furies from the late 70s, which adds that old-school cop car look to all the excitement. Cletus isn't the sharpest, but he's a sweetheart and always provides laughs for the show. The wardrobe malfunction. In one specific scene directed by Paul Baxley, Catherine Bach was acting when she saw that something was wrong with the crew. They had all turned their backs to her, and she thought she must have done something wrong as an actress. It turned out that her top had slipped, exposing her accidentally. This experience was shared in a fan forum on HazardNet, where a member said she speaks frankly of performing some scene and then turning around and everyone has turned their backs on her. She believed she had blown the scene, then she noticed she had fallen out of her shirt. The production team's instant response was to stop filming to take care of the issue. The take was not included in the final version, and the scene was reshot to meet the standards that would be suitable for viewership by the show. Being a family-oriented show, CBS and producers took careful consideration to uphold certain standards, particularly about wardrobe selection. To avoid such occurrences, Catherine Bach wore flesh-colored pantyhose underneath her famous denim shorts, Daisy Dukes, so that the shorts did not show too much. This was done in response to protests from network censors regarding the revealing nature of her clothing. Although this specific wardrobe malfunction was not made public at the time, it has been debated in fan communities and behind-the-scenes look-backs. It is a reminder of the difficulties involved in television production, particularly in juggling character representation with network guidelines. Ultimately, The Dukes of Hazzard was a great action-filled series that provided viewers with laughter, excitement, and characters they'd never forget. Catherine Bach's Daisy Dukes wasn't memorable simply because she was pretty and wore those legendary shorts, but also because she was tough, resourceful, and had a large heart. Although there were a few wardrobe malfunctions behind the scenes, such as the one in Season 6, these were handled delicately by producers and never aired. The show, after all, was supposed to be family-friendly, and the network did not want anything to mar that reputation. What's fascinating is the amount of pressure that was put on someone like Catherine Bach to be sexy for ratings, but always remain within strict parameters. That double standard was prevalent during the 1980s and continues to cause controversy today. Daisy was meant to draw attention, but Catherine always played her with class and dignity. Years later, Daisy Dukes' legacy remains. She is forever inextricably tied to those cut-off shorts, and she's still a pop culture icon of fearless, assertive femininity. The wardrobe missteps in the background didn't damage her reputation. Indeed, they remind us of Hollywood's human side and the way actors struggle to reconcile character and comfort. In short, Daisy Dukes is more than a pretty face or a pair of shorts. She's a TV icon whose appeal transcends a passing fashion fad.